Well, welcome everybody here to ICF Orange County's third session with Ann Kelly. And we have this wonderful opportunity to have the chance to speak with her. Of course, some of you were here the last couple of weeks as we had the two sessions on ethics. And this is a third session with Ann Kelly specifically on coaching agreements. And there was a lot of interest expressed in that even last week. And we said, we'll answer some of those last week, but the bulk of those coaching agreement conversations is today. So it's again my honor to welcome Ann. And for those who are just joining us, I want to go ahead and give her bio here, a little background about her so that you know who Ann Kelly is. Ann Kelly is a professional certified coach as well as a certified mentor coach. And she has volunteered on the ICF ethics education team, successfully updating their 3-hour online course to reflect the revised code of ethics. That was back in 2021 when those new code of ethics were done. Of course, we had the honor of having her in person. You didn't have to sit there and watch videos all alone in your room or wherever in your office or at a Starbucks or something. We had one of those team members here with us to talk about ethics. She serves as the final performance review examiner for a level 1 coach training organization. And she graduated from the ICF's updated PCC marker assessor trainings, and she is an ACC bars training since 2023. She created and teaches the CCE's program. You can see in the very background of her, behind her right shoulder, you can see the little sign. Yes, as she's pointing to that. That's that CCE's website name as well as the logo for that. And she has been teaching there since 2021. Which is a 20-hour ICF accredited coach training program that includes 10 hours of mentoring within that program. She has mentored new and has been recertifying court coaches since 2016. She teaches multiple CCE courses each year since 2014. Of course, we've had the benefit of her teaching some for us this year. She's been continuously coaching since 2003. So we celebrate again your 20th anniversary as a coach in this very important business, Ann. She has served for 10 years as a volunteer for the ICF Metro DC chapter, including 3 years as the chapter's group mentor coach. In addition to all of that coaching experience, she has 30 plus years experience as a certified trainer and facilitator of adult learning. Finally, she works and lives in beautiful Frederick, Maryland with a fabulous husband, garden. I wish we had a picture of your garden, and 1 good dog out of 2. But of course, we do have the picture of the dog. I'm going to try to see if I can get that again here. It's not working. There we go. So again, 1 good dog out of 2. You can make the decision which is the good one, which is the bad one, or the not so good one. I'll say not so good one. We want to try to keep it somewhat positive. So again, welcome all of you, and especially our dear friend, Ann Kelly.
Thank you so much, Daryl. And thank you to Orange County. You are such a warm, welcoming chapter. Honest to goodness. Really, thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to be here today. I need a nap after that bio, though. Whew. But I mean, that's decades and decades of accomplishment. So thank you very much, Daryl. Just a show of hands, how many of you were for 1 or 2 of the ethics? You attended 1 or both? Okay, so we have maybe half and half. All right, that's good. And a couple more. All right, so I think we've got a good 50-50 mix here. So, Daryl, I think what I'd like to do is divide into 2 breakout groups, and that increases the chance that there were people who attended the ethics training. And I have 2 inquiries in the chat. So you'll be in a breakout group. We'll give a little extra time today. Let's so the folks who were not at ethics can really hear from the people who attended what was important. Let's say we'll go till 1/4 the hour. That would be about 8 minutes, and give you a nice bit of time to inform newcomers. Here are some of the things I heard at the 1 or 2 ethics webinars that I attended. And then the second question you'll talk about is, you came here today for coaching agreements, and what do you really want on the agenda today? So what topic related to coaching agreements would you like to put forth on the agenda? And when we come back at 1:15, we will debrief and collect your agenda. This is very much an agenda driven by you. So there are your two inquiries. I think we should probably have a mix, and I will also drop into the two rooms while you're meeting and just answer questions or add to the confusion. What questions do you have on what you're going to do right now, the next activity? Anybody? Okay. So we will see you in your breakout rooms and call you back in about 8 minutes. Thank you all.
I think someone came in late, TJ. I think I need to assign you to a room, so please bear with me one moment as I
Yes, I just didn't get the link sent to me. I just got it now. So
Oh, okay. I am sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and here is the link to one of the breakout rooms.
okay, thank you.
Very good. Hey, Daryl, look at you, Mr. Breakout Room.
I think I did it right.
Well, I will go into
Just want to make sure. Just okay. There it goes. TJ. I want to make sure TJ got it. So yeah, we have one room with 7, one room with 8. I think so. We probably could have had 3 rooms, but this way we're covered in case some people weren't there. So and let's see. I'm gonna pause the recording. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause the recording.
I only do that once. I only speak on mute once, right? Well, I've done it, so I don't have to worry about that. Thank you very much, Daryl. I would love to hear from the 2 breakout groups. You brought agenda items with you, things that you would like to have, and you're welcome to drop those in the chat or verbally share them right now, and we'll work as many of those into our conversation as possible. Who'd like to start? We had group 3 and group 4, I think.
Just feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat room. Oh, here we have one from Sharon.
Great.
Let's see, and that one says, "Is an agreement needed for a free session?" All right.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Other things that you'd like to discuss from either your breakout rooms or things that have been on your own mind about this. All right, Greta has one here in this webinar. That jumped up there. We're talking about the written agreement contract rather than the agreement or agenda that we talk about when we start a session. That she's just having basically a clarification of the written document versus the coaching agreement when you're meeting with a client. Then she said correct, and then Sharon also has guidelines around renewing contracts. Oh, another good question. Yeah, and I think the one that Greta asked is a really interesting one because there's 2 agreements, right? You have the agreement, then you have the agreement. So that's a good question that she's asked. TJ has said, really just want to see example agreements. Several of us are coming from different disciplines and would love to see examples. Okay, very good. Thank you, TJ. Others who want to either put into the chat room or maybe unmute yourself and just voice that. Probably in the chat room is the best way, though, I'll admit, because that way we can make sure we get it all in word for word what you're asking for. So, all right, Anne, I will just go ahead and turn it back to you, my friend.
Right. Thank you very much. I am going to start. I mentioned one of the groups asked, is this, I think of it as paper. Is this the paper agreement that I give to a client first, or is this the agreement in the coaching session? Because there are multiple places a coaching agreement shows up. And in the group, I mentioned we'd spend about 5 minutes maybe on the agreement in the session. And then the remainder of the time today, we're going to talk about what goes in your agreement, what's in mine, how do you handle that? We're going to look at sample agreements from the ICF website. I'll tell you how to find them. It's a little bit of a bug hunt, so I've got that too. But I'd like to just start with the coaching agreement in the session. So let me do that. I'm pretty sure I'm a co-host. Yay. All right. So I learned a coaching agreement in coach training school, like I assume all of you did. You learn a process by which you coach, and that varies a little from school to school, but you learn a process. And I did that in 2005. I have tweaked my agreement in the session to match the PCC markers. So for about the last year, I have been using the agreement you see in front of you. I hope you see it. Does everybody see the PCC markers on my screen? I've highlighted the words I particularly use and that I share with others when I suggest a structure to their coaching agreement. I'm going to go back up though to the top of the PCC markers. What are PCC markers? PCC markers are indicators, behavioral indicators usually, that an assessor is trained to listen to in a recording. So when I exhibit behaviors in the PCC markers, and perhaps I've submitted a recording or because I'm applying for the next level of credential, assessors are listening for very particular skills within each competency. These are the ones they listen for in establish and maintain agreements. This is in the coaching session. This is not a document sent before time to the client, but in the coaching session, am I asking my client, what would you like to accomplish? In some language, there's a wide variety of ways to do this. What would you like to accomplish? What is success going to look like? Give me some details on what success is going to look like. And third, what will it mean to you, client? Why is it important to you, client, that you accomplish this? And then finally, what do you need to address? What are the obstacles? And I like to add another A, who are your allies? What do you need to address? And who are your allies who will help you get there? So that's the structure the PCC markers tell us to use. And this is what assessors listen for in a recording at the PCC level. If it's exhibited at the ACC level, great. But this is what they're listening for. It's public knowledge. So my agenda matches this one. Now, I need to put this somewhere else. I realize I only have this in one document myself, but it's pretty much the same language. This is a job aid I did for mentoring, and I included this. I call it ASMA, a simple, meaningful agenda, ASMA, just to remember, what do I want to accomplish? What does success look like? Why is that meaningful to you? And what do you need to address is the fourth. 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 3-4. These come again right out of the PCC markers. This is what an assessor will listen for in my coaching. And if I don't accomplish this with my client, if I don't know what their goal is, how am I going to measure their growth, their success? How will I evoke awareness? How will I listen? I don't know what to listen for. I don't know what their goal is. I compare us a little bit to a Lyft driver, and you tell your driver where you want to go. You give them an end goal as soon as you arrive in the car. You say, I want to go here. If the driver doesn't know where you want to go, very low chance of success. I find an analogy with that in coaching when I just don't know. I don't know what that client wants to accomplish. And yeah, it is possible to get to the end of a coaching call and not have that as a known. So just a little bit about that. Let me, the PCC markers, let me stop there. That's really as much as I'll put out there, but what questions do you have on that topic, on the coaching agreement within the coaching session? PCC markers, pretty good things. Pretty good things. Okay. All right.
And this is Karen. I'm driving, so I have to multitask here carefully. Thank you for being here again. I really wanted to be here, so hopefully it's okay to listen in and participate as I can. So one of the questions I have, and I notice this with clients all the time, is that whatever they start out as wanting for their what success looks like and their, what they want to accomplish, et cetera, I have noticed it shifts, and more often than I think we give it credit for. So, we can start off with these things, and I also want to pay attention to the fact that they do shift, and how do we address that in the context of certification as far as ICF goes?
I was with you right up until the end, because I can talk to what do I do as a coach when my client comes in and says, I want to do this. And then 20, 30 minutes later, they want something else. I was with you till then. And then you added the ICF.
Yes. So let me clarify. So the idea behind clients, it's not that they sometimes aren't clear about what they want when they show up at a session. So we can ask these questions. I've been doing this for 30 years too. So I'm coming from a place of experience on it, and I'm curious about it from an ICF point of view as terms of how does an assessor listen for when a client shifts from what the initial intention is for the session to something different. I would assume that we have to go back and renegotiate in that moment and just say, here's, I heard this before, this is what I'm hearing now, is that where we should focus, and then go through the same series again. I would assume that's what would happen from if an ICF assessor were listening in. Would that be correct?
I think so, Karen. Yeah, that's, and I am not an assessor for the ICF. I've taken most of the training I'd need to do that, but I am not an assessor for the ICF. I am an assessor for coach training organizations and a mentor. So I can answer from how would I evaluate that call if I was looking at the PCC markers. I'll tell you this, as a coach, you get credit for asking the questions and using the words. What your client replies, in most cases, is not going to affect that check mark on an evaluation form. I heard this coach clearly asking, what do you want to accomplish? I heard this coach using language that sought to bring out from that client, what is it going to look like when you achieve that? Give me some concrete. Maybe your whiteboard is filled. Maybe your calendar book is completely booked, or maybe that's not booked at all and you wanted a vacation. So what is success going to look like to you? And they described that to me. Karen, I don't know if this will help, but as you were talking, before we got to the ICF, I went to the next step. What does this mean to you? And I wonder, I do not know. I wonder, and you wonder with me, please, is the third step where sometimes our clients shift. So I've told you I want my calendar filled with appointments, or I want no appointments, or I want to write a book. So I've told you what I want to accomplish, and I've given you some indication of success. Now you ask me, what will it mean to you when you do that? Why is this important? And at that point, clients just kind of barf their values on us if we're listening. I would have more time with my family if my calendar were clear. We're considering adopting a child, or I would like to travel more. Now my values are coming out. My values are coming out. And that may say where I really want to go. The analogy I'd use is if someone says, I want the next promotion, and they speak with me, that's success, the next promotion. But yet what they describe, what it would mean is more time with family and a better work-life balance. I will absolutely point out, is there a connection there between that promotion and work-life balance? Yeah, I won't have as much of that when I get the promotion. Oh, okay. Anything there to explore? Because when I tell you what it means to me and why it's important to me, I'm talking in value statements. And I may then really tell you the real deal. Now, this is a grand way to look at the coaching agreement in the session. It doesn't always line up that way. Somebody comes in, I wanted this, and then success matches, meaning matches, and what they need to accomplish matches. But I did hear, Karen, you say sometimes our clients shift, and what I'm going to place in there is that my fault as the coach? No. 2.1 embodies a coaching mindset, admits that clients are responsible for their own choices. I think we all ought to have that tattooed on our forehead. Clients are responsible for their own choices. So if I ask you, what would you like to accomplish? What would success look like? Why is that meaningful? Tell me what's important about that in your life for you. I am going to get credit for asking those questions. Even if the client says, I don't know, that's a stupid question, coach. I can't believe I'm paying you. I still get credit for that question because the assessors are listening to the coach. And the coach has invited that language. So I've been talking for a long time. Karen, let me see if that helped at all. If you're with us, Karen.
And again, Karen, you're muted. I know you are driving, so it might be difficult.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, but listen, let me thank you for letting me delve a little into that in the session agreement. If you have any other questions on that, I'm more than happy to talk about it. But I am also hearing a great deal of interest in that written agreement. So if there,
I just want to say, if I can just say one thing about that. So because going to think about that, the coach is asking the right questions. So I'm going for my PCC, and I had a preliminary okay from the PCC marker or a provisional pass. That's what it was, because the client in this particular session that I recorded for my mentor just was not coming to an agreement in that particular session. I kept saying, what is it? Anyway, and then the session ended, and what accomplished was accomplished. So I sent that to my mentor, and he said, I can give you a provisional pass. He goes, you asked all the right questions. He goes, you can't force someone to give you what they want to work on that particular session. So again, it's like you said, and again, it's not about the client. It's about us asking those right questions. And you can ask. If they're not answering, you're still doing the job, properly and professionally.
that's thank you so much, Daryl. What a great example. Thank you. What I tell the coaches I mentor is we're Simone Biles. We do not make anyone work at all to see our magnificence. Everything we do is magnificent. Just every finger, everything is perfect about her. She doesn't make the judges work. We don't make the assessors work. So if I'm sending in a recording, I'm going to use language from the PCC markers so that the assessors have a little pity for them. They don't have to work so hard. I just heard success. I know that's yes. I just heard meaning. I just heard accomplish. That's just my advice. Is shine so that they don't have to work. I said that to one of the CCE's classes earlier this year, and one of the coaches used to do gymnastics. She said, that's exactly what our coaches would tell us. Don't make them work. Everything you do is spot on. So they hear that agreement. But there's no penalty if a client, our job is to make the client look good. They don't have to make us look good. That's our job. That's our job. Good stuff. I'm not seeing the chat, so I'll leave that for others. If you have anything you'd like to contribute to that, or we'll move on to the written agreement. Okay.
And just really quickly, again, we do have some, things that were asked in the chat room that we can look at once you have a chance to get to some of those things. I think some of those you'll probably be covering. We have a couple other things inside there as well. So
yeah, let me get out. Let me see. I am going to talk amongst yourselves. Give me a.
Or if you're muted, talk to yourself.
Yes. Yes. I do want to go ahead. Oh, I know what I want to share. I'll share these. Let me get those set up. Okay, I will share screen again, if I may. A couple of you mentioned seeing agreements from the ICF. So I have the two I found here on the screen, and they are two different agreements. One of them is for one-on-one. You'll see ICF sample agreement. That's for an individual. There's also a multi-party coaching agreement. Yay. So this is for multiple people, but people like me who work, I'm a coach, a 1099 coach. I work for a prime who has a contract with an organization. So it's a triangle. So it's definitely a multi-party coaching agreement. You add a supervisor in there, and then you have 4 parts to it, at least. So some of the agreements you would adjust this and add in specifics. The templates the ICF have are meant to be customized. So this is 7 pages long. I won't run through the whole thing, but I am going to tell you how to find them. So here's pretty quickly, the multi-party agreement, of course, talking about relationships, responsibilities. Coaching is not therapy. The scope of services. So these are duties and responsibilities, things you would expect and hope to see in a coaching agreement. Schedules and fees, cancellation policy, confidentiality, privacy and data protection. I don't know if that was even in most coaching agreements a couple years ago, but it definitely is now. Lots of information on that. Release of information, record retention. You heard these topics come up in ethics. Termination. Either the company client, the employee client, or the coach may terminate this agreement at any time within this many days written notice. Very important. So you will customize that to yours. Liability, the entire agreement, dispute, severability, waivers, laws, binding, 7 pages. So there is a multi-party agreement. This is a one-on-one agreement. So I have a client working directly with me. Some of the same things, services. How will we meet? When will we meet? The schedules, the fees, procedures, schedule meetings, confidentiality, and then again, privacy, data, release of information, cancellation, records retention. So some of these should be in each agreement. The entire agreement, dispute, severability, waiver, applicable law, binding effect. And then at the end, they have, this is pretty nice, a place if you haven't already captured your clients. There's nothing like trying to reach a client, you can't find their phone number. But a place to capture your client's information. So those are two. I'm going to add in the chat how you can find those. Greg and I did this. We were trying to find them, and you kind of need a little map. So there's your map. That's how you log on to the ICF website and find those coaching agreements that I just shared. And then, of course, they're Word documents. You can customize those to your heart's content, add your logo, add your own policies, which we're going to dive into. What's your policy? What's your policy? What's your policy? And get some ideas from each other. But there are two samples to get you started. Again, one with one client, one coach, and another for a multi-party relationship. Any questions on those sample agreements or how to find them?
Well, I'm glad you broke the code.
You inspired me, Greg. I kept looking. I knew I was close. I knew I was close. It's, yeah, that was a little bit of a bug hunt. What I'd like to do with most of our time, we're not quite halfway through, is focus on a handout that you each got that I believe, yeah, I have here. I will show it to you briefly and ask if you do have that to please bring that up. This is what it looks like. So hopefully, give me a little thumbs up. Does that document look familiar to you? I don't know, Renee, that kind of went sideways. Yeah, good, good. Great. This, I think you would have received this with your registration for today. All right. I'm going to move us into the second line here in this lovely table that I have. And the coaching agreement, so I'm going to go off here so I can see you. I would like to see you rather than see the document on my screen. But I'm going to be speaking to this in the core competencies.
And excuse me for a minute.
Yeah.
I also didn't get the Zoom call link today or that thing. So is there some way I could look at it while we're talking about it?
You know, Daryl or anyone there, are you able to, I know there's a way to attach the file.
Or if somebody could email me while we're on the call, I can bring it up there.
I think you can even put it in the chat.
Yeah, as I look at doing that on my end, if someone else has that, please let me know, and I can help you get that into the chat.
Let me see here. I think I got it. I hope that's it. Yeah, that looks like it. So I hope that is now in the chat. Did that work?
I'm just looking. Yes, it worked. I don't know if I can open it though.
And it should be a PDF.
Yes, yeah, I got mine open with no problem. It opened my PDF app on my PC.
Great.
On my...
Great.
Yeah, right. I can get it.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I like this because it's a place to write, to capture some information, so that when you look back on this, you can go, oh, okay, and you have some to-dos, etc. The coaching agreement, number 3, establishes and maintains agreements This is part of the coaching foundation and co-creating the relationship. This is part of co-creating the relationship. So we're very much in that phase with our client. And a lot of times when we send these coaching agreements out, we may not even have met, or we may have had a chemistry chat, if that's how our organization works, or we may have been assigned a client, but we may not know much about them. Yet, we are called to co-create a relationship. This competency comes under that cluster of co-creating relationships. So I wanted to take some time and look at your document on this. We're still on the first page. And I'd like you just to bring to mind an example of a relationship where you were the consumer and you purchased a service and it was a one and done. So I need the concrete sidewalk out front replaced after 50 years, or a new roof that will last 30 years. Not an ongoing relationship, but something you need from a company or an individual to fill a specific need that you don't anticipate having repeated. So bring that to mind. On here, I have hired a web designer, install new AC. Give me a little thumbs up when you have a topic in mind. Here's someone that I spoke with. They're going to deliver 80 bags of mulch to my house. Yikes, on Monday. And that's it. That's the relationship right there. I paid for it. They're going to deliver it. We're done. So consider that relationship. And then I'd like you to compare that experience with another company or individual that you contract services for, but it's an ongoing relationship for you. So just jot those down. First might have been the guy that put your roof on 2 years ago. Hope not to see them again for a long time. This next one, you have an ongoing relationship with someone that helped you fill a need. You contracted with them and it filled the need. The story I always tell is I met my massage therapist here in Frederick, where I live, and she was, this is not honest, but this isn't the ethics part. This was not honest. I got a massage from her, and it was a very noisy, tiny, cramped little salon. And I didn't ever want to go back there. It was my only time there. But I was not leaving there without her phone number. And I'm not like that, folks. I'm not like that unless it's massage. I got her phone number. She was very good. She was going, well, I don't know. And we are friends 20 years later. She still does massage. But that turned in, I didn't intend it that way, but this was a service that I wanted in my life. Absolutely. I was not gonna leave. I think what I said to her was, if somebody just wanted to telephone you, what would they do? And she finally wrote it down. And she's helped me so much in my life since then. So that turned into a long-term relationship. So hopefully you've jotted down, here's a one and done. Here's a relationship that went on for a period of time. So now I'd like you just to compare those two and ask yourself, when you're in the coach role, when you are coaching someone, is it one and done? Or are you building a relationship? Because your policies are going to depend on that answer, I think. Think about that. Look at what you've written. Think about your coaching agreement. Does your coaching agreement indicate to others, I am here to build a relationship? Or is it more transactional in nature? Several of you I heard said, I have multiple coaching agreements. And someone asked a great question, do I need a coaching agreement for a free session? That's going to be a different coaching agreement. That's not going to be 15 pages. That may be one and done. As a matter of fact, they teach in coach school, do a lot of sample sessions, let people get to know you, get the practice of coaching them. Some may become clients, others will not. And by the way, when I do this module, there's nothing wrong with one and done. I really don't want to see the roofing guy again. It's very expensive. I would like that to be way down the road. Nothing wrong with one and done. There are people, because of the work they do, the coaching work they do, that it is much more limited. I talked to you 2 or 3 times. That's the nature of my coaching specialty, perhaps. So let's have some discussion around that. The topic right now is your coaching agreement and your coaching style, I'm going to say, does it encourage an ongoing relationship or is it transactional? I'd love to hear from some of you.
I guess mine in the past have been more relationship boundaries. Um, that, here's what I do, here's what I don't do, here's what I can't do, here's what confidentiality is, here's how you cancel a session, those kind of things. Not as detailed as what the samples are. But I think that the broader ones, probably I could see more value in the broader one in protecting me with liabilities as well and explaining certain things. But my concern has been, the people that are coming for coaching and stuff, they've already got some pain going on. And now I'm going to say, okay, now get an attorney to look over this 4-page and sign it, is kind of what it's felt like. And so I've had trouble with using them for that reason.
So Renee, when you say using them, you've had trouble using the ICF coaching agreements or any coaching agreement?
Really. I've just kind of made except when I'm dealing with a business and they're going to have me, then they're used to, here's my contract for services and what it covers and does not cover and my rates and that type of thing. But a lot of my clients would be kind of surprised by, let me send you this document that I would like you to execute before our first session. And I'm not sure how to broach that without putting this big wall between us, kind of, like now we're sitting at the desk and I'm across the desk from you kind of relationship. I like having more of this sit on couch and chair and talk rather than this sit in my office and So how do I broach this? How's the best way to do that where it's a relationship builder, not too much of a boundary feel?
I have thoughts, but I have been talking a lot. Lindsay, thank you very much. Or was that a thumbs up in agreement or a response, Lindsay?
Yeah, and Lindsay, if you wanted to say anything, just unmute yourself. There we go. Oh.
Well, Renee, your comment made me think of this. The ICF, I'm going to do a little bit of a tangent, but it's really an umbrella. There are many agencies, states that want to regulate coaching. There are several states that have reached out already to try to do that. And what's come back from the coaching profession has been we do a good job of self-regulating ourselves through the ICF. We have a code of ethics. We have continuing education requirements. We have different levels. We have a professional proctored credentialing exam for our members. So it's to our advantage and to our clients' advantage to have things in writing. So if I just shift that, and I'm so sensitive to you saying they're already in pain. I don't want to add pain with a long document that looks like a lawyer needs to look at it. What if I approached it from, here are some safeguards. You mentioned boundaries. Here are some safeguards built into our relationship, into our partnership. I want you to know what you can expect from me. What you see in that agreement, you can count on me. I will do that as your coach. If that might be instead something that helped them rather than flustered them. I don't know. Thoughts? This is a very good point.
And I was going to say, Lindsay put in the chat room, that was her same question. That's what she did, the thumbs up. She has a sick child at home with her, so she has to be muted. So we think about you and your child, Lindsay.
Hope they're feeling better. Thank you. Thank you. Do you mention that to your clients? Do you mention to your clients that there are protections built into your relationship that can benefit them?
I don't say it in exactly those words, but when I use the agreement, I basically say I don't use the word contract, because to me, contract sounds, of course, that sounds more business. So I say, it's an agreement, things that we both are agreeing to in this relationship, as coach and client. It includes things like, again, I don't really say protections, but and also now my mind just going blank what I say to people. I think I basically just say, it's because a lot of people I think are used to, some sort of a form document in some relationships and everything. And, but yeah, again, I see that, Renee, it's like, oh my gosh, you're giving me a 7-page document, 10-point font with all these bold and italicized and, cautionary languages. And it's like, I'm going to find a coach that doesn't do this. But, I think I think it goes back to what you said too, Anne, because, there are more and more states that are talking about wanting to regulate, not really license, but regulate coaching. And, the more we get into that kind of mindset that we're trying to protect ourselves as well as our clients, I mean, to me, I think one of the main things I always kind of highlight in the coaching agreement is that, this is confidential. It's specified in the coaching agreement that what happens here, is between you and me and everything, within limits, of course. There are always those kind of things, if someone wants to harm them, we know all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think maybe that's kind of the protection thing too, going into that. I don't say the P word, but I say the confidentiality word, that it's confident. That's one of the things I think maybe I highlight, just kind of thinking and talking right now.
Thank you, Daryl. Other thoughts from anyone?
So my thought is that going back to what you discussed in our last meeting, that there were 21 total formal complaints filed among 53,000 coaches, leads me to believe that coaches are not informing. Some coaches maybe, but the majority of coaches may not even be informing their clients that they have recourse, or they have protections, or whatever language you want to use. I have a hard time believing 21 complaints out of 53,000 coaches. Am I the only one?
No, Greg, I mentioned one of the long-time ethics volunteers, Gurkhan, said the same thing. He said, I wonder if the numbers are so low because people don't know. Clients, organizations don't know that there's anywhere to go for recourse.
Well, I guess it starts with us informing our clients that they have certain protections in the coaching relationship.
Yeah. And building it, and again, coaching agreements, I do a separate module called What's Your Coaching Style? And I actually could do one for the agreement, because the agreement should reflect you. Your agreement should reflect you. If you are a busy internal HR coach, you may have a one-pager. I could see an inbox of one pages, and you just, when they come in the door, have you got 20 minutes? I got to play, because it's just, for a lot of our internal HR coaches, it's that way. And just, okay, read this and sign it. Read this and sign it. Come back at 3. We'll do a half hour. They have folks walking in the door, no written agreement, because they're in the same organization. So they see you. I know you. Yeah, I saw you at lunch the other day. Hey, can I just add that? I don't need a whole coaching session. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. And before you know it, 20 minutes have gone by.
You know,
go ahead.
I would say, not regarding specifically coaching agreements, but I read or something, or saw maybe a video about on documents that the font matters. Yeah, you don't want to maybe use Comic Sans Serif, but when you're looking at Georgia or Times New Roman, it seems more business than some other fonts, because if I'm looking at, I think Georgia, I think is the official font of the White House. They use Georgia. They don't use Times New Roman. They use Georgia. It looks more of an official font, And I heard that or read that somewhere. This was several years ago, and just kind of made me think right now. To bring your personality in it, to make it, make it not look. I mean, you look at certain. It's just like, Kindle. If you have any Kindle readers, Kindle has its own particular font they created for their Kindle e-readers and everything. And, it's not, it doesn't look business oriented or whatever. So I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. I don't know if it has any merit at all, but when you said about bringing your own personality into that coaching agreement, whether you're putting your logo in there, or whether you're beginning saying, I'm looking forward to this great relationship we're going to have, and kind of start off, however makes it personal to you. I think as long as you're keeping the essential core elements in there, things like confidentiality, maybe the termination of the agreement, et cetera. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you. I want to move to the second page on your handout, Worry-Free Coaching Agreements. What relationship co-creating information goes in an ICF coaching agreement? So I'm assuming for a moment, I'm going to talk to the relationship co-creating coaches in the crowd, not transactional. So if you are seeking to create a relationship with clients, whatever that means to you, for me, it might be, I would welcome you to come back when this 6 months is complete. I would welcome you in other trainings that I have. I would welcome you as a colleague and a friend, versus you're here, you got your 3 CCEs, goodbye, see you in 3 years. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I don't need to be best friends with the cashiers. But do I want a relationship? So speaking from a point of view of how you co-create relationship, let's throw out a few policies and discuss those. This is my favorite part of this, is where I get to hear how other coaches do business. So there are typically, I don't know, a dozen things that go into a coaching agreement. I can shout one out, but if there is something you'd like to hear from other coaches, is it the refund policy? Is it the cancellation policy? Is it the confidentiality? What would you like to hear from other coaches on this call for a couple minutes to help you inform your policy of co-creating relationships? Lori, I love your photo. If we don't have a volunteer,
I have one. This is Karen.
Oh, great.
Sorry for all these technical issues today, but I am here listening. So I'd be curious to know about the new one that's been added about the data privacy and protecting information. I'd love to see what others are doing around that.
Great. Great. This is the number 7, I think, in the code of ethics, because it always comes up when we do that. Data protection. What do you say, if anything, about data protection in your coaching agreement in order to build relationships? I like that face, Greg. What was that?
You know, it's one of those topics that I don't bring up. And I think I explained to you before, there are areas where I need to button things up a little bit. And data privacy and data protection is one of those areas. No, people don't necessarily ask, but I think it's incumbent upon us to share.
Thank you. Yes, Greta.
I suppose it would go under the topic of confidentiality. And I hadn't really thought about writing anything about data until right now. But I have thought about including a data privacy tab on my website. And that came about as a result of wanting to redo my website and doing some webinars or something. And the person who was putting it on said, I know you've created your own website if you do not have such a tab on data privacy. So I'm thinking it's becoming what one does. Now, especially now with AI and with all the privacy, and every time you click on a website, cookies and this and that. So I'm thinking I need to do that as part of confidentiality. And I don't know the words of what to write yet.
Well, the good news is there's some language in those sample agreements, and you know how to find them. They both had a big block on confidentiality. I don't know if it got into data management, but there's a start there in the ICF coaching agreements. Yeah, Karen.
I was just going to say, I love that you're bringing that up, Greta. What spawned me to think about it, then I saw it in an ICF a few months ago when I was actually it was the agreement. I think for those who were there last week, I talked about a client that I walked away from. It was $100,000 contract, and part of what I was searching for, what is the confidentiality for around data and privacy, because they wanted to own my content. That led me down a path where I started looking like, well, so if I don't have that in my contract. I've got a very good confidentiality clauses in my contract, but I don't have something about data privacy. That led me to my IT people, like, well, how am I being protected? I went down this path to try to understand, like, how am I really taking care of my client's data? And so then I said, well, what if something happens though? What do I do then? So I actually went and worked with my E&O policy guys, and I use the Hartford, which is ICF has a relationship with the Hartford, and I actually increased my policy there, my insurance coverage there, so that I was at least covered in the event something happens. Now, I've been doing coaching for next year will be my 30th year, and I've never had a problem in 30 years. I don't want one, and so I'm being a little bit vigilant, or for those who've been in the positive intelligence program, hyper vigilant in some ways. I hope it's more vigilant than hyper vigilant about paying attention to those things. So I looked at it from, like, it's not just the privacy, it's like, how are we actually taking care of the people who are working with us? I walked away from an IT company, a managed services company, because their employees they did not certify that their employees would keep things confidential. They did not have a written agreement to that extent. So we as coaching especially if you're working with the executive suite and the board, you have to really be vigilant and careful about it. So I pontificated, I apologize, but that's what I'm doing. That's what's up for me.
Karen, pontificating, welcome. Greta.
Yeah, I have another comment. Thanks for that, Karen. So I'm remembering the ethics webinars we just did, and I'm remembering the topic of data, like what do you do with your notes after. I mean, I suppose in a written agreement, just thinking off the top of my head without going back and looking at specific language, you could relate it to the notes you keep or something like that, right? Because a lot of us take notes. People see us taking notes. Anyway, it's an idea. It's giving me ideas.
I think it's around retention policy about how we keep these things. And
yeah.
And then actually it harkens to what Greg said earlier and brought up about the fact that there's only 21 of these grievances or complaints out of 53,000 coaches. And, is it because people aren't sharing it, or, I don't know why, but there's also a certain part, we're all business owners, or for those of us who are external coaches, we're also business owners. And I don't know how this applies necessarily to the internal coaches, but from a business owner perspective, you also have to look at it. You are a business owner and the law is there, and you have to understand the law, and you have to understand all of these different things about running a business. And at the end of the day, though, you still have to make a business decision. So we have to pay attention to, being prudent and, follow ethics and all that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, it could also hamstring us and we wouldn't even move. Or for many people, that would be the case. So I think we have to just use some common sense along the way as well. And I'd be interested in what others think about that.
Thank you, Karen. So there's good confidentiality information in 2 ICF coaching agreements. Start there. In a moment, I'm going to move on to one other policy, but before we leave here, I have in my agreement, and I verbally emphasize it, this is just what I've come up with. If I take notes, if you've sent me anything, if you sent me your 360 and your Myers-Briggs and we work together for a year, I will delete anything electronic, anything on paper is shredded. I give them 2 days to realize, oh, I don't have a copy of this or that. Please send it to me. And then it's gone. So is that a comprehensive data management? I'm sure it's not, but it's a step in the right direction. So I would offer that as you're going through your coaching agreement, put something in there. Because people ask, I had to write a check for a service. And I said to the guy, when I give the check to your work person, when they leave, what do they do with my check? And he said, yeah, I had to get after them on that. They'd clip them on a clipboard and leave it in the front of the truck. I did not pay by check. I don't need my routing number and account number broadcast. So, but if you don't ask, you don't know. So I think from my own perspective, I would want to know my data is protected at a minimum. What you've written, what I've sent you will go away when we stop working together. I do tell them the only thing I keep is the log. We started on this date, we ended on this date, we did this many hours on these days. Nothing about the topics, just, and your email and phone, in case the ICF wants to double check that. This is good. This is good. Karen, thank you for that question. That may be the most important one. I want to just do one more policy in our time. Who else has a policy you'd really like to know? Maybe you're rewriting yours or you don't have it. It's an area in your agreement that you would like to strengthen and you'd like to hear from others. Refunds. When do you give refunds? How do you get refunds? Do you refund the whole amount? Do you withhold the fees? Are you building relationships? running a business. It's not an easy decision. What other policy would you like to hear about from the other coaches?
I don't have this in my agreement, but I read recently that some people, like if you have clients that are ongoing that you see for a long time, I have some clients I've seen for years at this point, and that whole idea of increasing fees always kind of like makes me go, how do I tell a client their fees are going to be increased? And I read about people who actually have that in their contract, that we will be, I will be raising fees X every year, on this date. Or so I don't know if anyone else is doing anything like that, but that would be interesting to me to hear about.
Thank you, Sharon. How do you share information with your clients or prospective clients about your rates? Very thoughtful group.
I feel like I'm always jumping in too much, so you guys can shut me up anytime.
You go right ahead, Karen.
So whatever the contract is whatever the fees are for the duration of the contract, I just accept that. If a client leaves, I tend to have longstanding clients like Sharon talks about, and others. I have clients that I've had from 30 years ago come back engagement, but they will re-engage. So I will when they start again, I'll just say there's these are the fees. I don't even explain it. I just say this is what they are. So I feel like sometimes we become defensive, and we actually disempower ourselves in a way. It's just my own perspective about this. So I think that we have to realize that we actually are adding value and shift our own perspective and thinking about the fact that time.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. This is again your coaching agreement. This is it. I presume now you're coming from your own company. This is your coaching agreement that you get to tweak till it sounds and feels and looks good to you for your policies. Building relationships, transactional, fees, refunds, data storage, all of the parts of that. And protections for you as well. Protections for you. What does that mean? Whatever is in writing, if I am one of the 21, unfortunate 21 that gets, I don't know how the ICF contacts you, if it's an email or a phone call, but when I have that coaching agreement, whatever I do have in writing, if all I have is at the end of our agreement, I will delete any electronic files and I will shred any notes. I have something in there about your privacy. I may not have what the client wanted or needed. I may not have known, but I have something in there. And by the way, I want to emphasize for those of you that weren't with us before, all of the redacted scenarios that we saw on the ICF website of complaints and in the ethical conduct report, the ICF comes at those with learning plans. So coaches who have been found to be in violation of the code of ethics, the ICF develops and works with them for a learning plan, so that they can do better, That's the reaction. I want to leave some time for your takeaways. So I will, let's spend 1 minute on informal agreements. Think about this, shout one out if you have it. an informal agreement. Maybe my informal agreement is we don't really start on time. My coaching agreement said we start on time, but I know you call 5 minutes late and now it's going to be 8 minutes and then it's 10, but that's okay. That's okay. That's an informal agreement that you have. Maybe I say no refunds without 24 hours notice, and I decide, it's my business. I decide I do want to give you a refund. Informal agreement. What informal agreements do you have with your clients?
I have an informal agreement that they can reach out to me via text and or email and expect a response within some period of time. I think my agreement says 48 hours, but I generally tend to get back to people as soon as I can.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I have an informal agreement around the 24-hour cancellation policy, which is a formal agreement written into my agreement. So when I'm talking to someone for the first time, I say, I really appreciate 24-hour notice, but if there's something that really comes up, I understand. Just let me know. And I would appreciate the same. So that's, but I include it as a formality because I want 24-hour notice, and then tell them, hey, I'm a little flexible. You know, I'm not an Army sergeant.
Yeah. Thank you. This is that I'm building a relationship and I am a business person and I want to take care of myself and I want to take care of my client. So 24 hours notice is in the agreement, and verbally I say, I'd appreciate 24 hours notice and I understand life happens. Let me know. Let me know. We'll talk about it. That's my prerogative. It's my agreement, my prerogative. This has gone too fast. I want to give you the magic answers on the last page of your handout. Now, those of you who are at the ethics, you should know this. Here's your quiz. The top of the page, page 3, the 3 things ICF ethics experts say get coaches in trouble. Go. What are they? What 3 things get ICF coaches in trouble? I'm such a good trainer.
No agreement.
Agreement. Yes. What else?
A poor agreement.
A poor agreement. A stinking poor agreement. No agreement. A poor agreement. What's the third one?
Poorly explained.
Poorly explained.
A poorly explained agreement. Doesn't matter if it's 1 page or 20. If I don't explain it, this came from Michael Marks, been on the ethics team longer than the earth has been spinning around the sun. And he said, these are the 3 things that cause most ethical violations, all related to the coaching agreement. So again, for me, I put something in there. I will delete your electronic files. I will shred the paper files. I put something in there. Maybe that will spark their questions. I need more data protection. Okay, client, tell me what that looks like. How can I be your coach and help you with that? Because it's at least in the agreement to get the wheels turning. So I want to give you the bonus advice that's on that page. So the 3 things they say get coaches in trouble: no coaching agreement, a bad coaching agreement, or poorly explained coaching agreement. The bonus advice Michael gave was this. He said, you cannot over communicate with a client. You cannot over communicate with a client. Now you can, but you know, I think his point's well taken. Number 2, 1 word: respect. Respect. And number 3, always do what's best for the client. Makes it pretty simple. Always do what's best for the client. So if you would, what are you taking away from this webinar on coaching agreements? I'd like to hear that in just a moment. I do want to offer you an opportunity to speak a little bit more about the ICF, and I've been called the certification confusion buster. I just heard that recently. I thought that was pretty fitting. So if you are a little bit confused by ICF certification, I would like to offer you 30 minutes of my time just to talk about that. We'll go on the ICF website. We'll look at the requirements. You tell me your goals. We'll see how you are, see if you're on track for where you want to go. And I'll share any of the information I have about how the certification process works. I'm more than happy to do that. I'll grab the link to schedule that on my calendar, and I just ask that you schedule that today, if you would please, to help me out here, or if you're listening to the recording, schedule that today. And then drop your takeaways, and we will turn things back over to Daryl. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again, Anne. This was such a great way to again, what you mentioned is really specific. This last thing you said about, getting your certification, your credential, because these are key things. Of course, the ethics, which of course you probably studied, hopefully in your coach training, but so often, especially if we've been doing this for a long time, you kind of get in this habit of, oh, I know what the code of ethics is. I know what my coaching agreement is. I've used that same coaching agreement for a long time. And oh, wait, what's this about data privacy and all this kind of other stuff? Then I never thought about that. I never, that's a whole new thing for me. So it's good for new coaches, of course, but also good for our seasoned coaches who, it's like with anything, you want to kind of reevaluate what's going on in your coaching business. Is that language still good? In your coaching agreement. So that has been really a helpful thing for especially seeking a credential and everything. And of course, as well, for the ethics that's needed for that. So, Anne, again, you become a great friend of our chapter here, and we're so grateful. I don't know if you know, Anne not only has presented for us, but oftentimes she actually is one of you. She attends a lot of our sessions as a student. So that's why I love about you as well. You're not simply one of these people who thinks, oh, I'm a teacher. No, you're also a lifelong learner, a testament to, as you continue to give back to the coaching community. And we appreciate you for doing that. I'm going to put in the chat room the link to our ICF Orange County website page that has all of the upcoming meetings and sessions. One thing I do want to mention for those who are local, next Thursday, which is September or the 21st, that's this week, our next chapter meeting, which is in person and industrious down in Irvine, Linda Denton, who is an MCC based here in Orange County. She is going to be leading that with 2 panelists of longtime established coaches, kind of a Q&A for our community. So for those of you who are here, I would invite you, if you're local, to sign up. You can follow the link on that registration, or that link I had sent there. Click on that. It shows all the other events coming up. For most of the end of the year. We still have something like 12 or 16 events between now and the end of the year. So I would invite you to look at that, but especially this coming Thursday, which is a really going to be an engaging thing for new coaches, as well as, again, seasoned coaches, to have that chance to learn some experience and hear some of that conversation in that Q&A there with Linda and those other panelists. As always, you can reach out to the ICF board. You can reach out to me personally. Our information is on the website there. I won't take any more time here. We are just about the end of the time. And as we're closing out, again, if you want to put any takeaways there in the chat room for Anne's benefit, be on the lookout for the survey that will be coming out so that you can get that CCEU certificate. Of course, you'll get 1.5 today for those who are at ethics. If you were there, you'll get 3.0, if 3 CCEUs if you were at both those sessions. So please make sure you receive those emails. If not, reach out to us so that you can get those. And for now, I bid all of you a great week. happy coaching, happy empowering people. And again, always an honor to welcome you to ICF Orange County.